The initial release of Star Wars Battlefront 2 was extremely controversial and led to a drop in shares at almost 9% at EA. But what exactly is behind all the loot boxes and pay-to-win fiasco? Well, if you look past EA's mess, there is actually a pretty good game here, and today, we're going to talk about the top 5 greatest things about Star Wars Battlefront 2. Number 5. No matter what anyone says about Battlefront 2, they can't argue that the game has a lot more content than the first Battlefront by EA. While the first game was centered around the original trilogy, Battlefront 2 is centered around all of them. In Star Wars Battlefront 2, you can experience the prequel, sequel, and original trilogies. Each contains a handful of maps, heroes, and vehicles, making it roughly 3 times more expanded than the first game. And that only speaks to the initial launch. New content will come monthly through patches on top of the season content that we'll be getting through the game's lifespan, which you can expect to cover all 3 eras as well. The fact that you can play as clone troopers and resistant members all on the same disc makes this truly a memorable Star Wars game. Number 4. Sometimes you have to give credit where credit is due, and the immersion in Star Wars Battlefront 2 deserves that credit. From the beginning moments in Galactic Assault, to the incredibly detailed vast open maps, to the interactive dialogue between hero characters, once again DICE does not fail to deliver an immersive Star Wars experience. In Battlefront 2, there are creatures running around various maps, trigger events that happen during gameplay, and opening and closing cinematics when a game is launched. The amount of detail put into Battlefront 2 is several steps above the first game, and I would even go to lengths of saying that this is one of the most beautiful games that I've ever played. Battlefront 2 certainly does the Star Wars series justice in the immersion area of the pie. Number 3. Scrapping the entire flying mechanics from the first game, Battlefront 2 takes flying to a whole new level. From battling around space stations and capital ships, to strategic dogfighting, starfighter assault, and really just piloting a starfighter in general in this game has never felt so satisfying and intense. In this game mode, you can choose to pilot a variety of different ships that are also categorized by class, like infantry. Each ship feels unique in control and abilities, and each has their own strengths and weaknesses. No longer do you have to fear A-Wings decimating the map in superiority among everything else. Starfighter Assault feels relatively balanced and has actually been the least touched game mode by the developers in terms of major bugs and fixes. Criterion is the one responsible for putting this one together, so hats off to them. I really hope we get to see more unique maps and fighters added to this game mode in the future, since we haven't had a fantastic Starfighter Star Wars game in a very long time.
Defend our blockade runners!
Number 2. Battlefront 2015 not only lacked content, but lacked a sufficient single-player experience before Skirmish came along. What it also lacked was a campaign mode. After cries from fans to include a campaign mode, DICE delivered. While the campaign doesn't invent the wheel and even feels predictable, it's still nice to be able to play a new Star Wars story in 2018 in a video game. Even if the story is mediocre, it's still a lot of fun to play through. There's a lot of cool things and moments the campaign has to offer. From fighting the Imperial Army during an invasion on Naboo,
Lock her down! Woo! That got him! Keep moving! They're coming for us! Transports inbound!
or taking flight around Maz's castle in the Millennium Falcon, or even pulling a Darth Vader from Rogue One with Iden Versio.
Droid, slice the door!
It's too late! What do we do?
There's lots to experience and tons of fun to be had while playing the campaign. I recommend ignoring all the criticism it's gotten since release and giving it a full playthrough yourself to really understand what it's like to play a single-player Star Wars game in 2018. Number 1. The greatest thing about Star Wars Battlefront 2 is the fact that the devs actually listen to their community. While communication may not be the best between the developers at DICE and the player fanbase, it's primarily because of EA's hold over DICE, being that things have to go through lots of approval, and through chains of command at Disney before things can make it into the game. Rest assured, the developers are always listening and reporting player feedback through their chain. Recently, Sledgehammer70 resigned from the community manager position on Battlefront 2, but his closing remarks stated that he was always passing feedback to the team on a regular basis. One can dispute this, but after seeing the new progression system, hearing that cosmetics will be the only thing players can buy, and hearing about the new large-scale game mode coming to arcade, I believe the developers on Star Wars Battlefront 2 truly want it to be the ultimate Star Wars game for both single players and for people who play online as well. These have been the top 5 greatest things about Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like the video and subscribe if you want to see videos similar to this. Peace out.
Okay, bring it. Let's train it.
Together.